Property owners, how can you determine the market value of your own property? Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. You have John Hatch and Angela for our Monday housing market update. So right now, a lot of people are wondering, what is the value of my property? And they're turning to websites like Zillow, online platforms that give them an estimate. But is that market value? Do those numbers represent market value for your property? Well, they're really robots, right, John? They're robots.
They're robots. And sometimes they're uncannily accurate. Like if your house is in a neighborhood, a big neighborhood, similar, and the newer homes, similar condition, then it can be accurate. But most times it's not. Certainly the tax records aren't accurate, market value in the tax records. So you need to look at a lot of other things.
Yeah. And I guess, like, what is the difference between market value and like your estimate? Like, what's market value?
Yeah. Well, market value is what someone is prepared to pay. And what we need is a good realtor, experienced realtor, to come in and look at things like the floor plan, the configuration of the home, its condition, has it been remodeled, updated, and very important is the location. And often we see that when we're looking at properties online, we can't tell whether there's a huge power line in their backyard or whether it's right next to I-5 freeway. Location of shops, whether the roads are improved or unimproved, and whether the neighborhood is in transaction. And also your neighbor can affect the value of a property. I mean, if your neighbor's got a junkyard in his front yard, and that can put a lot of people off.
Yeah, we've seen that a lot, haven't we? We like run an analysis before we go to a property, and then we think we have an idea of what value is, and then we'll pull up and we'll be like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that was right next door. Unfortunately, really. And back to talking about how like sometimes those online estimates are really accurate, like if you're in a neighborhood with all those things very consistent, like era. But like I've noticed going to like say houses in Portland Heights, where you can have a house that is on an estate, beautiful land, manicured, $3 million house, right? And then across the street, you have a nice house, but it is maybe on stilts and like a completely different type of property, different era, different style, everything. An online platform is not going to really be able to understand that at all. So that's right where we have to come in and figure out, how does that affect your value?
Yeah.
And so those are things you as a consumer can kind of think about on your own, right? We'll go to these listing appointments a lot. And even though a lot of sellers are like, oh, I take that with a grain of salt, like that online valuation, it's still there. It's still, if Zillow is saying your house is worth something and you think, oh, that's probably high or whatever, it's still there.
Yep. It's just a guide.
Yeah, so it's just a guide, and you can kind of utilize those things that we talked about with like, what's your road like? How close are you to I-5? What's your neighbors like? What updates have you done? And then
is it in a floodplain?
There you go. There you go, right there. So if you're serious about selling, obviously our recommendation is that you reach out to a good realtor like us. You can also do things like get an independent appraisal. Like you can hire an appraiser to go out and do a valuation for you. What we found is sometimes those appraisers aren't really tapped into I want to be careful here, but like what that buyer is willing to pay for your home, right? Sometimes appraisals aren't taking into consideration the buyer mindset of the time. What are buyers feeling right now?
Mhm.
What are buyers going to take a bigger issue with you being on a busy road than what an appraiser would? So there's lots of things to consider there. We can help
Yep.
you, of course.
Yep. Yep. Love to help you.
So any questions on market value, type in the chat. Remember to like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.